I'm Trish.
And I'm Brandy.
And you're listening to episode 5 of
Connected Conversations. This is your space where international teachers, school leaders, and parents like us get together for real talk, real tips, and real conversations that go way beyond the glossy brochures of international education.
So, whether you're considering that first job abroad, trying to understand your child's new international school, or figuring out if it's time for a change, we've all been where you're sitting, and we're here to help you weigh the pros and cons of it all.
Between us, Trish and I have been teaching internationally for almost 40 years across 8 countries, 4 continents, and just about every kind of school out there.
That's right. And when it comes to finances, we've made some mistakes and asked the uncomfortable questions and figured out how to make this lifestyle work long term.
So if you've ever wondered, can I actually afford to move abroad and teach? This episode is for you.
We're breaking down what those overseas salaries really mean, what you need to budget before you go, and how to set yourself up for a smooth financial transition.
Because that shiny looking contract might not be so shiny once you start furnishing an empty apartment or waiting 6 weeks for your very first paycheck.
So let's get in and figure out if this dream is financially doable. It's time to get connected.
Today's episode is part of our International Files series, where we unpack the systems and logistics of international life, moving, and working abroad. And finances are a huge part of that.
For sure. If you're exploring the idea of moving abroad to teach overseas, or if you've already accepted an offer and are trying to prepare for it, money and setting up the correct accounts is probably one of the first things you're trying to wrap your head around.
And in this episode, we're going to cover 3 key things. Number 1, what international teacher salaries really look like and why the number on the contract doesn't tell the whole story.
That's right. And 2, what kind of hidden or unexpected costs you need to prepare for and plan for in those first few months abroad.
And lastly, number 3, how much money we recommend saving before you board your flight to your new teaching life abroad.
We'll also share some personal examples, like the time I was sure I was going to love the 3-year contract and spent a ton of money furnishing my new place on the high end. And then after 6 months, knew that I needed out at any cost.
Oh, that's hard. That's really rough. Personally, I nickel and dimed myself. I chipped away at my savings just a little too quickly on eating out and having fun. And then I spent nearly the rest of my money on flying my 2 little kitties over from America to Czech Republic. And then, surprise, I almost got deported and I had to pay for a surprise flight back home that I did not see coming. And being almost deported, it's becoming an old story here if you've been following us from episode 1.
But it's a good story, Brandy. and just a quick note, if you haven't yet listened to episode 3, we did a full breakdown of the different types of schools you'll find in the international teaching world. TEFL, international schools, bilingual schools, boarding, and different state schools.
And that episode is key because each school type comes with totally different salary ranges, benefits, and expectations.
So we'll be referencing those previous episodes today, and it's important that, especially when we talk about the salary side of things, you know what we're talking about.
All right, let's dive in.
All right, let's start with the most obvious thing, the salary. You might see a job ad that lists $3,000 or $4,000 US per month or even more.
And on paper, that might look incredible, maybe even more than you made in your home country.
But here's the reality. That number means nothing if you don't understand the cost of living of where you're going and what's included or what isn't included in your contract.
For example, I once had a contract in Europe that looked fantastic on paper. I was getting paid a very decent salary per hour lesson that I taught. I did my calculations. I multiplied those lessons by 8 hours a day. And I was like, yeah, this is totally doable. Then I realized I could not logically work an 8-hour day and teach 8 individual lessons that were in different locations because I had to travel to and fro from those lessons. And then it dawned on me that my travel time was not paid. And I learned pretty quickly that my salary was not what I imagined it to be.
That must have been in the TEFL world, right?
Yes.
Yeah, the TEFL world. In our last episode, we talked about that. So meanwhile, I took a job in rural South Korea where my salary was technically lower on paper, around $2,500 USD a month. And this was 20 years ago now, which may have been good at that time, right? But that also included housing, utilities, lunch at school every day, and annual flights for me and my family. There was nothing really to spend in that little village. So we ended up living like locals, traveling like locals, and we saved more that year than anywhere in the next couple of years.
That's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And that's our biggest point here. It's not just about the number on paper. It's about what that number gets you. So your first task when choosing to move abroad for the first time, or if you're hopping over to a new country, if you're already abroad, is to do your research on the cost of living in that country. Or if you'd like to see that work already done for you, wink, go over to our website at connectedglobal.org and subscribe to our annually updated country guides where we give a really detailed insight to what life actually looks like country to country.
Yep, we've done the research, asked the teachers working in those countries the cost of everything from phone service to internet plans to a loaf of bread to a bottle of wine, if you can drink it in the country that you're in,
yes.
Which ties us back to episode 3 for a second time, because the type of school that you work in can really impact what you need to consider financially. If you're in a TEFL job, you might be paid for hourly lessons with no benefits.
Or no pay for the travel time.
Mm-hmm.
And in many of these jobs, you'll need to factor in paying for your own health and social insurance as well with your trade license, and also setting aside some money for taxes at the end of the year. That's also important. So just beware.
Yep. And if you're a local bilingual school teacher, the salary might be a little closer to local pay scales. So it's also important that you know what those look like as well before you go. And these bilingual schools usually don't offer big benefits either, except for occasionally covering your health insurance and taxes. So that's a cost that doesn't need to come separately out of your pocket at the end of the year.
Above all, international schools and boarding schools, they tend to offer the highest salaries plus the most benefits like housing, flights, insurance, and tuition discounts for your kids. But those positions come with higher expectations too, like valid teaching degrees and background checks and maybe longer working hours. And with more responsibility that's usually aligned with school teachers back home.
Right. And even then, some international schools don't include housing, especially here in Europe.
Yeah.
But then oddly, some do. Some include utilities, others don't. Your phone and internet are rarely covered by your school. Why would they be? Unless you're working at a boarding school where these things are needed for your job, and then they might be. So all of these are questions you want to ask while you're going through the application process. And they're part of considering what type of teaching and which job will meet your financial, personal needs and goals.
Definitely. So the big takeaway here, never look at the salary in isolation.
Yeah.
Always ask what's included, what's taxed, and what will it actually cover in that country.
That's right. Remember that in general, all of the bills that you had back home in your home country, you will likely have somewhere out here as well. Make a list of your current spends and then hop over to our website, connectedglobal.org, and compare it to our handy little checklist of things to ask during your contract discussions. We'll link that in the show notes here for you too.
Yep. All right, let's move into section 2 of today's episode, the unexpected budget killers when first moving abroad.
Right. Let's say you've accepted the job, you've signed the contract, and you're about to move.
But what are the costs people don't tell you about?
First of all, deposits.
Yes.
Most international housing rentals require 2 or even 3 months rent up front. That's before you even move in, okay? Although this may sound absurd, it usually breaks down as your first and last month of rent, which is common. But that third fee could be a hefty deposit fee, which may be tough to get back, or the agent fee, the rental agent fee, which you definitely won't get back.
Yeah. And if your school doesn't provide housing, you might be paying that on your own. Another thing to keep an eye out for is if the flat is furnished or not. That's a thing. Yeah. You can rent a place that's already furnished sometimes, which can be a huge benefit. But if it's not furnished, then you're looking at the deposit cost plus furniture plus that realtor fee.
Right. And one of the biggest shocks for me early on was that in some countries, apartments come with absolutely nothing, like no curtains, no lights or light bulbs, sometimes not even a fridge or a washing machine. When I moved to the UAE in 2009, my apartment was huge. We're talking 3 bedrooms and nanny's quarters, but it didn't have a single appliance in it, which meant my first shopping trip was not to the grocery store. It was actually dropping money on a fridge and a microwave, which was beyond unexpected, especially as I didn't even know where to go to buy these things and get a good deal on them.
Oh, that's hard. I had to buy everything from scratch once too. And let me tell you, those IKEA receipts, they add up super fast.
So fast.
Just make sure to double check listings and factor into what your first costs will be. A huge pro tip on this is to join the Facebook marketplace groups of your new location. because there's always someone coming and going. Yep. And you can save huge amounts of money if you just invest a little bit of time in getting things secondhand.
Yeah, another budget killer can be medical costs. Even if your school provides insurance, it might not kick in right away, or it might not cover the dependents if you've got a family. So you need to look into the cost of that first month of private health insurance. Or maybe traveler's insurance will still work. Mm-hmm. I've found that it's rare to have dental insurance covered while abroad. And if you are someone like me who likes their pearly whites checked up every 6 months, this can add up, you know? My son even did 2 years of braces while in Thailand because we didn't pull his wisdom teeth in China in time. Mm. So that was a few months of salary unexpectedly gone right there while we were out.
Yeah, that's hard. Mm-hmm. It's definitely not like in America where you can simply choose to just not have health insurance either. Most countries require it, and you can actually receive a fine for even going a few days without it. I learned that the hard way, but this is definitely true for Czech Republic at least.
Yep, and I've paid that fine before. Don't forget other country requirements like visa fees, residency documents, ID cards. They all add up. These are all little administrative costs that you will need to take time off from work to get there and to set things up. So speaking of getting there to do these documents, you'll need to factor in your transportation costs. If you're in a large city, I so highly recommend buying the public transportation pass, at least for like 6 months, and just kind of get to know the space around you before you invest in something like a vehicle. It's the most economical way to get around, and it's good for the planet, right?
Definitely. And for those very fit people out there, you may enjoy going the biking route. But personally, I've just never felt confident on the busy Prague streets, especially with my young son in tow, in order to make that work for me. So for me, public transit and having a car was really necessary for my lifestyle. And that might resonate with some of you as well.
Yep, for sure. And on the topic of cars, many countries do not accept your international driver's license for more than 6 months a year at max. Okay. We all can get by with it for longer than that. But you'll have to factor in switching over your license to the local one. I know in the UAE, it was as simple as going down to the DMV one afternoon and paying a small fee. But in Thailand, it was a few trips and a few higher fees. And especially when I added in my motorcycle license, which I had to take the whole course for, and then you had to pay the license around that as well. So, but far and above all else, hands down, the most expensive license I've ever had to deal with was the Czech and the EU one, because I needed to take the entire driving course again at 27 years old. 29 hours with the instructor sitting next to me. Shout out to Yarda. And because I didn't know how to drive a manual before I came here. And you need to pass the test.
Fun being American, only knowing automatics.
Yeah,
Exactly. And because I knew that Trish had struggled with this process, when it was time for me to get my Czech EU license, I got to save money and was able to skirt by more easily. I taught myself how to drive a manual outside of the school after leaving America. And then I got to make a deal with my driving school to prove myself within only 3 lessons. And I only had to pay about half of the cost. It definitely helps to have a connected friend.
Lucky you.
But on the other hand, Trish was no help to me when it came to this next expense. Dedicated to all of my pet-loving friends out there, relocating pets can be a huge expense. I flew my 2 cats over from America to Czech Republic, and it cost more than 2 international tickets. But don't worry, we'll be dedicating a whole episode, or maybe 2, to specifically just moving pets abroad, and we'll be sharing like the tips and the tricks that we've gained from our many connected friends who have done it along the way.
And this is exactly what we are here to help you avoid. So take our advice. Make a list of every expense that you can imagine in the first 60 days. And then double it.
Yeah.
Okay. Include things like SIM cards, kitchen supplies, VPNs if you're going to China, kids' school uniforms if you have children, and the food staples in your pantry that only buy once a year or every couple of years, like the salt and pepper or something.
Yep. We actually created a first 3 months budget checklist you can download from our website, and we'll link that in the show notes.
Absolutely. It's super practical. And honestly, I wish I'd had something like that when I was first abroad in my first year.
Me too. I saved a bunch of money, and that felt And I felt that spending all of the money here on eating out, that it wouldn't matter, going and having fun. Again, that nickel and diming.
Yeah.
But it sneaks up on you. And in some ways, the expenses of your first 3 months are also like nickel and diming because they add up quick.
Yeah, they do. And I've told Brandy so many times in my 25 years abroad and stuff that in all those different moves, there isn't really any way I really save any money and put it into the long-term savings until I'm into year 3 of a contract. So it takes me and my family personally that long to get established every time, finding our transportation, doing all the stuff needed. So that is good for me to know now because it makes my future job searches that much more focused. I look for 3-year things at this point.
And with our help, we hope that you'll get to those places of confidence quickly too.
So here we are at section 3.
Here is where we answer the question we get asked most often. How much money should I save before moving abroad?
That's right. And it really differs from everyone based on your family situation and something as personal as finances or something we all handle so differently.
Yeah.
However, our best recommendation is aim to have at least 2 to 3 months worth of living expenses plus your startup costs before you come.
Yeah. And for most people, that means something between $3,000 and $6,000 US dollars, maybe more if you have a family.
However, both of us know people who have done it on way less than that, me included. Okay. But if you're aiming to make a long-term go of this, it's always better to have that extra cushion, of course, because even if your school does include housing and relocation stipends, sometimes payments are delayed or paperwork takes a lot longer than expected.
Oh my gosh. Yes. I remember I didn't get my first paycheck for 7 weeks.
Oh, yikes. That's actually more common, though, than people realize.
Yeah.
Many schools here pay in arrears, meaning that you won't be paid until the end of your first month of completed working. And salaries are generally monthly here, not biweekly. That was a big switch for me to get used to from stateside teaching.
Yeah, me too, for sure. And so just make sure that you ask your school, the hiring agent there or the recruiter, when do salaries start? Is there a relocation bonus? Can I get any of that up front, like a small loan against your first paycheck, which is sometimes available?
Yeah, and if you're leaving a job and losing your regular paycheck before you come here, make sure you really understand the financial gap between your last salary and your first one abroad. I have yet to encounter a 401k program or any type of retirement savings offered by any of my schools abroad, except for 3 of the contracts that I've had where I've had salary completion bonuses, which means you're going to get like half a month or a whole month's salary for every year you worked, but upon leaving. So it's a great incentive to stick out your contract, right? This is how schools help you build towards retirement savings. But again, it's not guaranteed and not all types of schools offer it. And not all of us use it for our retirement savings, which you should do.
We also recommend, though, having a separate emergency fund, not just for unexpected costs, but for peace of mind.
Yeah, for sure. And even a couple of $1,000s saved or that same emergency space on a credit card can really help you feel in control out here.
Yeah.
I always make sure I have at least enough money for flight tickets home to Minnesota if all should go south and I have to live in my parents' basement again.
Yeah, I remember when I had exactly 24 hours to live Czech Republic or risk being deported, as we all know at this point. I had exactly $1,000 in the bank, which was the last of my little cushion until I got that first paycheck. And then boom, I had to spend all of it on a trip back home. Luckily, I also had a family to move in with and a car that I could borrow, but I was completely broke when I moved back and I felt absolutely trapped. I wish I would have had some kind of separate emergency fund. I was not so smart, but I have learned, lived and learned. But it's just best to plan for the unexpected. You seriously just don't know what could blindside you.
And I guess that's true for being back home as well. You never know what tomorrow's going to bring, right?
Right. So. And the best answer for how much you should save before you take the leap to move abroad or move on to the next contract abroad is this. What number in the bank allows you to feel peace of mind?
Yeah, talk it out. And if you don't have that person in your life or need a connected friend out there, head over to our website and book a consultation with us. And we'll be happy to run the numbers with you. You can do it. Countless other risk takers like us have done it and survived and thrived, and you will too.
Absolutely. Okay, so let's wrap up today's episode with a few clear takeaways. If you're considering teaching abroad, here's what you want to remember.
That's right. First, Don't get fooled by the headline salary. Always consider the cost of living and what's actually included in your contract. Check out our country guides on our website to see the cost of living expenses, as well as many more insightful details about each country. While you're there, take a look at our contract checklist to help you navigate conversations about what's included and what's not in your budgeting. We've tried to provide a balance of free and paid resources to help get you started.
And second, budget for your first 2 to 3 months. Include deposits, setup costs, and daily living expenses. We also have that first 3 months budget checklist that you can use too, and all of these are going to be linked below for you.
Awesome. And third, save enough so that you can breathe through the bumps of unexpected emergencies. Ideally, $3,000-ish or more, depending on your situation and the number that makes you feel calm and breathe easiest when talking about finances.
So this brings us to today's end. Thanks for spending time with us, as we know your time is limited and your tabs are probably many.
That's right. We know that finances are not the sexiest topic, but they're one of the most important.
Yeah, definitely. And if this episode gave you something to think about, share it with a friend, leave a review, or subscribe. It helps us grow this global community.
Absolutely. And if you want help thinking through your own job offer or relocation plans, you can book a personal consultation with us through our website. We'll walk you through whatever options you are facing. Finances in particular can feel pretty overwhelming, and sometimes just chatting about it with someone who's been there can help untangle the mess of it all.
We love helping teachers like you feel confident in this transition because we've been you.
That's right. As always, over at connectedglobal.org, you'll find all the resources we've mentioned in this episode, as well as other downloads, guides, checklists, and extra goodies that go beyond what we've chatted about today. So until next time,
may your contracts be clear,
your school Wi-Fi be strong,
and your coffee be fair trade and international.
Is there any way we can play what's been recorded? I think we pulled some stuff out of our ass, and I had something in my eye for most of that time.
Oh my God.
My leg went totally asleep.
Oh my God, what?
Yeah. So here we are, section 3.
No, let's try again.
It
doesn't matter. It was fine. You were ready.